Welcome back, everyone. As you probably guessed from the thumbnail of the video, today we are talking about the appointment of Mr. Dan Bongino as the Deputy Director of the FBI. Of course, for those who haven't been following, Patel has been approved by the Senate as the Director of the FBI, and I made a video, I believe, on Saturday, talking about how he has also been appointed as the Acting Director of the ATF. That was officially announced today as when we're recording this video, but of course we were all ahead of it by a few days. And actually the ATF has updated their organizational chart on their website as well, which is great. And I think that chart will be updated a few more times, let's just say, which also is a good thing. But moving on to Dan, he has been, again, appointed the Deputy Director of the FBI. So he will be working directly under Patel, who works directly under Pam Bondi, who works directly under President Trump. So that is the chain of command, if you will. And speaking of the chain of command, what does the Deputy Director do? Well, typically the Deputy Director of most of the alphabet agencies is a career person who advises the Director on like day-to-day operations, if that makes sense. And then the Director speaks to Congress, does the public interviews, does the public appearances, and the day-to-day is typically ran by the deputy in most alphabet agencies. Not all, of course, that's up to the Director, but typically that is how it works. And for those who don't know who Dan Bongino is, which I actually doubt there's very many of you who don't. He did over a decade as a Secret Service agent, so was a federal agent. A lot of people say he's not qualified for the position. Well, look at what all the qualified people have done over the last 30, 40, 50 years. So maybe it's time to have some not qualified people for the position, when in reality, obviously Dan is completely qualified. Like I said, he has over 10 years of service as a Secret Service agent, which is a very similar background. A lot of the exact same training actually down at FLETC as the FBI receives. Additionally, Dan has run multiple huge businesses, so being in charge of a lot of people will not be a new thing to him, and complex systems will not be a new thing to him. Dan also, of course, has hosted a podcast for over 10 years. It's one of the most successful. It's a top 10 podcast. And Dan also has one of the biggest, if not the biggest, actual terrestrial radio shows in America as well, which airs, or has aired rather, I should say, from 12 to 3 Eastern time. And I listen to Dan's show pretty much every day. I am what he calls a P1 listener, so I'm very familiar with his opinions and what Dan thinks. However, I do not know Dan Bongino. I've never met him, which actually is kind of odd. We know a lot of the same people, but for whatever reason, we never ran into each other. That said, again, I've spent years listening to him, so I have a pretty good idea of what he thinks. And in terms of the Second Amendment, so people may be thinking, why are you talking about this? In terms of the Second Amendment, the FBI actually has a huge role to play in protecting it. Just for example, background checks are done by the FBI, but a lot of the actual investigations that are attributed to the ATF are joint investigations with the FBI. I would say probably the majority of them. So the FBI plays a huge role in how the Second Amendment, in terms of court cases and things like that, play out in America. So he's somebody that is a welcome addition to that position. And I have a few quotes here. This has been floating around social media since last night. But again, I listen to Dan. I have listened to him for years. We have a lot of mutual friends, and I'm pretty confident in his position on the Second Amendment. So just a few things, again, just to go down, things that he said, notable quotes on the Second Amendment. There is no such thing as gun control, only people control. Obviously, that is true. The Second Amendment was not a suggestion. Again, that is true. The Second Amendment is a failsafe woven into the fabric of our Constitution that ensures God-given rights and freedoms upon which this country was built. Again, obviously true. Sorry about the jump cut. We had a couple F-22s flying by. Continuing on with notable statements from Mr. Dan Bongino. The arguments for restricting our Second Amendment rights on the grounds of public safety seem fraudulent at best. Perhaps the goal isn't to eliminate guns, but is instead a pathway by which to silence the voices of freedom. Once again, spot on, accurate. And lastly, I believe that the Second Amendment is crystal clear. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Again, it is crystal clear. It is one of the very, very few rights, civil rights, natural rights, whatever you want to call it, in this country that has been treated for the last at least 70 years as a second-class right. And I'm glad that we have some people right now in very important positions who do not view it as a second-class right. And hopefully it goes a long way in terms of influencing both the Department of Justice as well as the White House and Congress over the next 2 years. And glad to see Dan in there. And one thing I posted over on my X account last night, for those of you guys who aren't following me, I definitely suggest you do. That's where we get, of course, a lot of breaking news and great deals and stuff like that out to you guys. But one thing I posted there is, again, for those who don't know, Dan is one of the co-owners of Rumble. He is just an extremely successful businessman. He owns a number of different tech style companies, as well as runs a very successful business on his own with his wife. And somebody like Dan taking this position, he is losing out on probably tens of millions of dollars. The opportunity cost to him personally is huge. So to see someone like that with his skill set, with his background, with his knowledge, and just simply with his core values taking this type of position is a very good sign. And I think it's worth noting and worth recognizing the sacrifice that him and his family are going to endure for this position. There's a huge opportunity cost, and that kind of money is the type of money that most of us will never see in our entire lives. And he very likely will be giving that up just over the next 4 years or so, as long as he is in this position. So it's a big sacrifice for him, and definitely he has my respect for doing that and stepping up when his country called. And Dan's not alone in this administration. There's a lot of people who have done very similar things. That was just recently announced again that Graham Allen will be working with the Department of Defense again now with Pete Hegseth. Obviously he's giving up a lot of money to take that position. And I don't believe Graham is a tremendously wealthy individual already. So in that type of case, it becomes an even bigger sacrifice. So there's a lot of people in this administration, that's just two, but trust me, there's a lot if you look around of people in key positions that have given up lucrative careers to help out and help right the direction, I guess you could say, of the country, because certainly we were trending in the wrong direction. So that is it. That's my take on Dan. That's what I think and what I know as of right now. Also a big update on Cash being in those two positions. One thing I want to note on Cash Patel, one question a lot of people asked was, how could Cash Patel be the FBI director as well as the ATF director? A person I saw explain that well was Mark over at Four Boxes Diner. If you guys aren't following him and you're into nerding out on gun law, I definitely recommend Mark's channel. One thing Mark pointed out that I had thought about but wasn't sure if it was actually true, but he would know because he's an attorney that studies these sorts of things. He said that once you're Senate confirmed during whatever term that there is out there, so like Trump's term or whatever, once you're Senate confirmed for a Senate confirmed position, you can fill all the Senate confirmed positions. And that makes sense to me. And that is what I thought as well. So got it confirmed by Mark, so I appreciate that. So again, the ATF director would be a Senate confirmed position. And so Cash can fill in there as the temporary director until a new one goes through the process, because going through that process is unfortunately lengthy when you are a Republican administration. If it's a Democrat administration, it seems to go quite quickly. Wonder why that is. Hopefully those sorts of things change as well, but it is what it is. That's a separate video for another day. Again, that is the summary of what's going on with Dan, as well as what an update to Cash's situation. So with that, guys, we're going to close the video out. Like I mentioned, if you're not following my social medias, I definitely recommend you do so. That is where the news breaks first, as well as where we post a lot of things that simply YouTube will not allow. Additionally, if you like this video and you're not subscribed either on YouTube or Rumble, it's easy fix. My Rumble has been blowing up lately, which is great. I definitely appreciate all of you guys over there. Additionally, if you've done both of those and you're not seeing a minimum of 2 to 4 videos a week here on the channel, you're being censored by an algorithm. Easy way around that is to sign up for the email at the website here on your screen. This email will get you on 2 lists. One of them is an email that just goes out once a month, and it has all the videos since the previous month's email went out, so that way there's no algorithm or tech giant censoring your eyes from my content. It'll also get you put on the Daily Deals email. And of course, either of those, you can opt out whenever you want. I have a single one-click opt-out because I hate emails that don't. But you can get signed up for that. It goes out every day, as the name indicates, and it has, generally speaking, 8 of the best deals that we find around the internet on guns, gear, the type of stuff that we review here on the channel, optics, ammo, etc. If it's in the email on a given day, it's the cheapest I know of anyone on the internet for that particular item, so it saves you guys some time and hopefully some money. Lastly, we have an SMS service that you guys can sign up for that goes out at most once a day, and it either has like the best deal that we find around the internet on that day, or just a video that just dropped that's hot that I need to get out to you guys, and once again get around that algorithm. It seems that there is a theme. So with that, guys, we're going to close it out. Thank you all for watching. I hope we do more winning in the future, but right now I'll take all the wins we can get, and I look forward to seeing everybody in the next video.